Abandon fear and trust yourself. Open up to all life's wealth. Tap into a sixth sense with intuitive intelligence.
Hello and welcome to the Intuitive Intelligence Podcast. I'm your host, Bernadette Gold. Angela is not joining us today, but I have a special guest, Leah Epstein Armstrong, and I hope I'm saying her name right, from eLifestyle.ca is with us today, and we are going to talk about invisible pain from invisible illness. I think I said that right. If not, I'll correct it. But I want to start with our opening prayer so that you guys can absorb what's happening in the conversation. And then I'm going to introduce you to Leah. So if you guys will join me, Heavenly Father, give us the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and a heart to understand all you wish us to know. Help us co-create a life of love, joy, and compassion for ourselves and others. Amen. Welcome, Miss Leah. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. How are you doing, Bernadette?
I'm good. I'm excited to have you. So tell the audience, the listeners, kind of who you are, what you do, and then did I get the topic right?
Well, very close. It's invisible illness caused by unseen, invisible pain caused by unseen illness.
I kept stumbling on that one today. I don't know why.
It's hard. It's a hard one.
It is.
Yeah.
So you and your wonderful husband, whom I met through the Charm Life program, and have come to know and love well. But I want to share you guys and your mission and what you've gone through with this specific topic. But overall, like, who are you?
So I'm Leah. I'm a mom of two gorgeous children. One's turning 5 on Thursday and another one's almost 9. I have a business that I started in 2004, and many people think that I started it with my husband or my husband started it, but I started it before I even knew him. We have a fitness company, and I actually started it because of this whole topic, because I just couldn't be in a corporate work environment. So I had to create something for myself. And we were like one of the first personal training companies in Toronto. We were the first personal training company in Toronto.
Nice.
That did it. Now there's so many trainers that go in home and stuff like that. But at that time we were the first company. And so this is, we've just been on this path. I have Crohn's and colitis. I also suffer from PTSD due to medical trauma. And I've had a number of stuff happening in the last year and a half that Bernadette knows a lot about. So unseen pain due to unseen illness is like this, from as far, I can't remember a time that I haven't been sort of suffering from one thing or another. And I think it's an important thing to talk about because for so many years, I just painted a smile on my face. And how
people
you doing?
with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and I mean, even, RA, like rheumatoid arthritis, you don't see the illness, you know what I mean? And so the person suffering through it and being exhausted and still having to carry on and champion on, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes with that. So what was your biggest struggle besides putting that smile on your face?
I think it's just having, and it's something that we're working on even, and I'm still working on to this day. We were talking about it last week in Charmed Life, is taking the time to heal. When you have especially a chronic illness that's unseen, it's incredibly hard. And it's funny because 90% of now I know it's not funny, that's just what it is, but I've attracted it. 90% of my personal training clients over the years have had some form of unseen illness. Like I do really well with fibro clients. I do really well with like all of those things because I get it. And no one takes that time to heal. No one feels they will do everything. Like I can't tell you how often I was like, I've been in the hospital and like walked out of the hospital and gone to like speaking engagements of like 5,000 people, or like I remember one day I walked out of the hospital and went to like the Four Seasons 2 hours later for like a family function, like a big family function, and had like track marks up and down my arms from like IVs, and was in the hospital. This was even before I was diagnosed fully with my Crohn's and colitis. And just the doctor was like, oh, why is all your family coming to visit you? Well, there's like a family bar mitzvah. Oh, well, let's discharge you so you can go to that and celebrate with them.
What's that do to your psychology?
Yeah.
I mean, what's that do to your emotions? What's the message that you received from stuff like that?
It tells me, and I think it tells most people, that everything is more important than yourself.
That's pathetic. I mean, it's sad to me. That's sad to me.
Yeah.
So
I remember having a miscarriage at a wedding and having a family member, like no one like saying anything because they didn't want to take away from like the wedding, and like having a family member turn to me and say, Leah, you need to smile more for the picture. And I'm like, I'm losing a baby. I'm like, you're lucky. I'm doing my best to like just be here and be out of a bed, and it just tells you that your emotions and your healing and yourself is not as important as anyone else's.
I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine it also tells you that suffering is just part of your lot in life.
Yeah, 100%. And we've talked about that. Like, I just knew that like my whole thing until, recent was like, I need to suffer. Like nothing will come without suffering. And that I just need to suffer. I felt like I was being punished for something that I didn't do. I felt like my body was my prison. I felt like my bedroom's been my prison. I've become, for many years, I was an observer of life. Like I just watched life go by as opposed to be a part of life,
Do you start to hate your body?
Pardon me?
Do you start to hate your body after a while?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm only asking because I don't have chronic. I've always had acute illness. But I remember like with cancer, my colon cancer, because nobody could see. You could see the lump, but no. And because I treated it naturally, my hair wasn't falling out. I didn't look like a cancer patient. Like nobody could see how much pain I was in.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it's like, wow.
And it's not just hating your body. It's like a level of like not trusting your body.
Yes.
And not being able, when you have a chronic, so like when you were going through cancer, which is like horrible and sad and awful in itself, but there was a cure and you found that cure, right? When you have a chronic illness that's unseen, you cannot depend when it's going to flare up. So you can make plans and then you pray and you hope that you can. That's why there's been so many times that I've like walked out of the hospital or like been up all night throwing up and then get up in front of like, and you know what? And the people around me are like, oh my God, you look so amazing. Not like you need to go back to bed. Like, I can't believe you're doing what you look so great after what you've been through. That's amazing. And it's meant to be a compliment, but
I think if people would stop long enough to look you in the eye, they would see it. They would see the pain that you're in.
Maybe they don't want to see the pain. I was thinking about that this morning, and and do I want to share that pain? There's a little, because when you're dismissed so much, you're trained not to show that pain also. And you're also trained to, like, there's lots of times where you show that pain and people don't care. So then you're like hesitant to show that in the future, right? Like, it's not something that you're like wanting to present to other people, because it's easier for you just to not, for people not to know, rather than people to know and then not care or
So
not.
is there a personal shame element to it when
Oh,
it's chronic?
100%. 100%. And there's like this anger. And like, I mean, I do have to say, like, there's a lot of issues that come when I get into a flare. Like, and there's a lot where like I can't eat, and then like I finally get to eat, and my stomach finally comes down and I eat. But then there's like a whole level of like eating sugar that happens. And I think a lot of that is like happens because like I just want to punish my body. Because like I know better. I'm a trainer. I'm a nutrition and wellness specialist. I'm a yoga instructor. Like, I've been doing this for long enough. Like, I've studied everything. I've seen every specialist,
Yeah.
and I think there's like a level of like punishing your body back because you have no control.
Yeah. Well, but that shame aspect too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or guilt. And I know we've talked about this a lot in our Charm Life class, but I think it's one of the worst parts that I see people doing to themselves. And I know you've struggled with. Can you talk to that?
Just like, I mean, it's this realization. I think there's guilt, but I think even before the guilt, there's a realization. So I'll get to the guilt in a second.
Okay.
But like, I remember being a single woman, just being diagnosed with this and thinking like, how am I going to find a partner that's going to accept me for who I am? And but it's not even that it's like, that is going to be willing to take on more of that load than because I'm not a whole person. And so I know from like, I remember when Rob and I, like, on our second or third date, I was like, hey, this is like what I'm like. This is what's going on. And you can, like, I'm not, like, basically saying, and not so many words, like, this is what it is, right? Like, preparing them for this life with a sick like, my husband, in my mind, my husband didn't do this, but in my mind, my husband, at the time when we were just like starting off our romance, I was thinking he's choosing a life of being with a sick person. And like, I mean, I know even at that point, like when I had moved home briefly when I was diagnosed with my parents. And I felt at that point, I didn't move out till my husband and I got engaged, and I moved in because my parents would find me passed out on the bathroom floor from like after like throwing up and in so much pain. I was like, how can I live on my own? I can't do this to a roommate, to like just be in the bathroom for hours and hours. So I have to live with my parents. And then you finally find someone that accepts you, and you work twice as hard to just do everything because you don't want to be a burden. You don't want to feel like you have to owe something or anything like that. And you don't want to take that time to heal because you feel like you're putting that extra burden on your husband, but then you're getting sicker and sicker because you're not taking care of yourself, right? Yeah.
Which is weird. It's like you're talking about that, and I'm thinking back when I had leukemia, and there was several rounds of leukemia that I had to fight naturally long before my stomach cancer. But I literally gave the disclaimer within the first couple dates of, hey, look, I've had this before and I have been sensing some symptoms. Like, before we get moving on this, you need to know, like, this is something like leukemia is not there's no guarantee here.
Yeah.
And I bring it up because it reminds me of that weird feeling when you're sick, whether it's acute or it's chronic. And I mean leukemia, and it was CLL, so like it was chronic because it kept coming back. Like, you're just not worthy of having love because, oh my God, something might happen to the other person. Weird.
Yeah. How can I do this to someone else? Like, how can I ask them to live in this life? How can I,
Prejudging their choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that
100%. 100%. And people go through life giving themselves less than because they're prejudging what someone is willing to get. And there's that setup that you're gonna like that you're never gonna feel good, that it's always gonna be bad,
well,
that there's not good things that can come out of it.
The programs from our society of being productive. You have to be a productive member of society, and you have to have something to offer. And so when you're sick, there's already this churning thought cycle, like you have nothing to offer.
100%. And I think it comes a lot like from society, from yourself, and from family programming too, because like I have a grandmother who had polio, and so I see a lot. And it's interesting because one of my really good friends, her mother had, probably one of my best friends her mother had polio as well, and we often talk about how has polio. We often talk about how that mentality, there's not a lot of polio people in the world these days, but how that sort of like, you have to have that smile. You can be walking around. You have to try hard not to walk with a limp. And to like not have a brace on and to look normal. And you have to, your leg is like killing you. And you have to smile and do work twice as hard as everyone else to show, my grandmother lived on a farm, grew up on a farm. And, so there was that, right? So then there's like that DNA plus that messaging that you see from your family and all of that stuff. And it's just like, it's a lot, to pretend to be normal. You have to pretend to be normal. You have to do whatever it takes to make yourself look normal.
Well, you don't have to.
No, but that's the program.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's debilitating. I mean, that's a lot of pressure.
So much pressure, like so much pressure. Like, and it's funny because I've recently let my hair go gray, but for many years I didn't. Because not recently, like a year or two ago, but that's sort of recent to me. And every time I would go into a flare, my hair, I get more patches of gray, because that would be like, because I wasn't getting the nutrition, because I wasn't eating, my body would just shut down. And so my hair wouldn't be able to produce color. And everyone's like, oh, gray's wisdom, gray's this. And I'm like, no, it just shows like me being sick, like that's not anything. And now I don't care anymore. But
Good for you.
Yeah.
So share some of the things that have shifted, because knowing you personally and watching your transformation, there's been a lot that's shifted around this topic.
Yeah, there's a lot that's been shifted and shifting through Charmed Life. And like, I mean, I'm just starting into like EMDR, which has been like amazing. And I've been in therapy for a while up until now. And, like there's this shift. Like, I mean, the last 4 weeks, I've just given myself permission to heal. And so like now when I say to Rob, like, I'm going to like lie down or something, instead of that, I'm like, I'm going to the bedroom to heal. Because like, how could I go every day and lie in bed for an hour or two and eat? That's lazy, that's like, so, healing, like focusing on healing, focusing on like trusting in the universe. And like, I mean, I have to be honest, I have spent, so 2004, I think it was 2001, 2002 that I got diagnosed. And then I started the business in 2004. And can't tell you like how many naturopaths, how much I've spent on naturopaths, osteopaths, and eating healthy. And I've done like every like juicing, and I've done like every different like protocol and every different supplement. And like I know everything about anti-inflammatory diets and, like everything. And it's great because I can support our clients in so many different ways and the average trainer cannot. And our clients see like so many miracles, but it was only band-aiding it. And I always thought, well, once I can get this under control, I can get the other stuff out of control. But I wasn't focusing in on the spiritual side and the emotional side. So, I started therapy in the end of January of this year. And then I started Charmed Life, like at the beginning of March, I think. Yeah, it was the beginning of March. I think it was like March 7th or that number, but I think it was just before maybe the 2nd or something. And having the spiritual and the emotional side of things I've seen healing. And like I had, one of the things we didn't talk about yet is like I had massive lung tumors in my lungs. That were like 4 by 6 centimeters in size. Like my last CT scan and they were growing and shrinking and growing and shrinking. And like, but it took like 6 months to just figure out that it wasn't cancer. So I was walking around thinking for months I had these massive tumors and I have these beautiful children that I'm not going to see grow up and aren't going to have a mother. God, like horrible things. And thankfully, last December, January, we found out that it wasn't cancer. But November was the first CT scan that I had that I had no new tumors growing. And all of my tumors had disappeared with no scar tissue, except for one, the really, really big one, which was like almost completely gone.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy, right? Or like I had been having like problems for years with like my hemoglobin and iron, and I've been getting iron infusions, and now my iron and hemoglobin are finally good.
So what do you think did that?
I think it's working on the emotional and the spiritual and not just the physical. And I always like, my original tagline for the company was like eLifestyle is really like equilibrium. So it's like body, mind, and soul. But I really thought that the body would lead the mind and the soul. I didn't realize that. I didn't think that it took me all of these till I was 43 years old to like really, and in a horrible car accident, which triggered like everything had to like break down into horribleness and but that's been the turnaround. And so that mindset of like thinking and trusting and, instead of being afraid you're going to get sick again, like trusting that like you're going to be healthy and trusting that you're on the right path. And even when I'm on the right path, like last week, like you had to confirm that I was on the right path because like the ego steps in and it's like, you've had all of these years of illness. Like, how can you just turn things around so quickly? And, as I say, like I've researched the most alternative. I know every alternative thing out there that I've done.
Right.
But it was like, and I felt like I couldn't even address those other two things, but I didn't, it needed to happen all at the same time.
Absolutely. And has to happen continuously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and when you start to get sick, you don't think, oh my God, this is going to be weeks. It becomes like, oh, this is just like a little blip. Like I'm not feeling great today. Tomorrow's going to be a better day, which like I used to think at the beginning of this and just get disappointed and disappointed and disappointed. And now I can really trust that it's going to be better.
And when you don't feel well, what do you do differently? How's that shifted for you?
I don't feel guilty. I lean into it.
Nice.
I lean
That's
into it.
important, right?
Yeah.
Like giving yourself permission
Yeah.
to be okay with not being okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and I own it, and I don't feel, like my husband is like the most supportive guy in the world. And like, I always felt guilty. And now I'm just like, but it's also, instead of saying like, I don't feel well, I'm going to bed, I say I'm going to the bedroom to heal. So it's like those little
Little.
micro, and that's the thing is like when people are sick, especially with a chronic, like, I mean, listen, I see people with like fibro, like you cannot even, you know, when you're in that much pain and that much inflammation, you cannot even like, it's so hard. And I know, like, I mean, when I get a stomach spasm, like it is like I have to do everything that I can do just not to go to the hospital to get like morphine, right? Because I would rather be at home and my bed than in the hospital. And like when you're going through that and when you're vomiting nonstop, and it's hard to like do all those mindset things and stuff like that. But when you just like change those tiny little things, when you start just by changing, like instead of like, I'm sick, I'm going to bed, I'm going to heal. Instead of like, I started like and I can't always write when I'm not feeling well. So like if I can't write, I like go through like gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like do tons of instead of 10 gratitude, which I try and do each day, I write like 100. And if I can't write it, I think it. And if I can't think it, I have the basic where it's like, I'm safe and protected. I have everything I need and want. Like in this moment, it may not. And I just sometimes my ego's like, but you're not. I'm like, in this moment, right now, I have everything I need and want. I'm safe and protected. I am love. I am joy. I am
Yeah.
peace. And I am grateful. And then I go through that with my kids and my husband. And it's sometimes and you can, so just in those things and just to repeat that over, that was like how I started. Like when I was like because like when I couldn't always, when I started at the beginning of this year, I was such a mess, right? I couldn't always get into it. And that I was like, the bottom line is I'm safe at like, and yeah, in a minute, I may not be safe and protected, but right now I am. In this second, I would have to bring myself into that moment. And I think bringing that, because my whole life, I think a lot of people like when I accomplish this, when this is done, then I'll be happy. Then I'll feel better. Then this will be, and it's no, like it's in this moment, you have to be happy so that you can be in the future happy. And so it's like you have to bring yourself back to that moment instead of thinking, oh my God, I feel so horrible. How long is this going to be? How long am I going to be trapped in my body? How long am I going to not do that? And then just start with like little things, little things that you can do for yourself or you can enjoy with your kids or with a friend. And it doesn't have to be a huge commitment. It can be like sitting down and coloring for a little bit with your child or,
Watching a movie.
watching a movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
So, one of the things I know we had talked about before, but I think should be brought up, is that weird thing of being like, I'm never going to be normal.
yeah.
Like the comparing
Yeah.
other people when in all reality, this is your normal. So what would you say to others that are struggling with invisible illnesses, like how to get beyond that even conversation in their head?
Yeah. I don't see, I feel like in a way I was sort of lucky when this came about because social media wasn't a big thing. Like now it's even worse with social media, and people have to remember, like, I mean, people have to remember that what they're seeing on social media is like a split second of someone's life. That's probably staged, and there's probably like 20 other pictures that like they declined to. I know that for me, thinking like, I mean, I'm not normal. I'm never going to be normal. Like, I mean, I'm different than everyone in my family. I'm more spiritual. I'm starting to get, something I haven't talked about like publicly. Like, I'm starting to get little downloads and messages from spirit. I'm feeling connected in lots of different ways. But I've
That is
always
not
like,
side effected charm life.
and
It is.
like, I also realized that I've always like
Yes.
all my clients think that like I'm so amazing because I always find out what I always know the root of their problems and the root of their problems, and it's an intuition that I have, and I just never did that. But like, I'm never gonna be normal. I'm normal, you know.
God, right?
Yeah, thank God. But like,
What is normal? I mean, you look at
yeah,
what's normal, and what's normal in our
yeah.
society has become narcissistic self
Yeah.
promotion and entitlement.
But I think, yes, exactly. And I think it's also like I'm never going to not be a burden is more than I'm not going to be normal. I think that's the more thing. And I'm realizing to trust the universe more. That the
Mhm.
universe, I'm like, as I'm saying this, I'm like, you can't see it, but I'm wearing like my mom's necklace that I recently, 2 or 3 months ago, I started wearing, and it's like infinity, lots of like little infinity things. I'm rubbing the infinity sign. And that's been something, a message that I've been getting a lot from you and from like in my life and stuff like that, that like give and take, right? So I realized I'm not a burden. Like my husband loves me. Like if I wasn't in my head, regardless of sick or not sick, like if I wasn't in my husband's life, his life wouldn't be as full and complete as it is now.
Right,
And having a life doesn't mean you have to be productive 100% of the day,
right.
right? Like when you think about when you're a burden, that's like, well, I can't do everything everyone else does.
That's
Well,
the do.
yeah,
That isn't the BBB,
yeah,
right? Like that's that thing we go, and I watch it with my clients constantly. This thing, because I have clients that also have Lyme disease, and it's the same thing,
hmm,
visible,
yeah,
and one day they're okay, and the next day they're just not, and they
yeah,
don't know when they're going to be
yeah,
able to cycle out of it, depending on what their infection level is. And Lyme disease is another one of those, has the doctor stump. How do we treat this and heal this?
hmm,
But it's an interesting thing because the switch in the brain from doing to being
yeah,
is such a huge
yeah,
effect.
yeah. And like one of the things we've talked about is I've always done things out of like anxiety. Like if I don't get this done, so now I'm learning to like do things out of like pleasure and enjoyment and trying to find joy in it, and pleasure and all of these. It's sometimes hard. And I sometimes have to challenge myself because like, but like I'm really doing my best and, and doing the things that I like more. And then there's like 2 or 3 things that I'm like, I got to do. But then I find ways to like make it a little bit more enjoyable and stuff like that. But
So,
yeah, I think it's like not even so much about like, I'm not going to be normal. It's like, I'm not going to be able to pull my weight. That's, I think, the thing that like, um that was more than not being normal. Like I'm not gonna pull my weight.
and yet we know
Um,
plenty of women that have married men and have people waiting on them hand and foot who are capable of pulling their weight, but don't feel the
yeah,
necessity
yeah,
to.
yeah,
I mean, there's all parts of society,
yeah. And
right?
I see that. Like, I mean, I often see that in what I do, right? Like, but with that though comes a whole other level. Like, a lot of these women don't feel, because I train them, I speak to them, I coach those people too. And, there's this idea that like, is their life meaningful enough? Is what they're doing, because they aren't doing anything, do they have as much of a say in decisions as their husband or partner. So yes, on the outside, there's that idea that it looks good, but I think as a society as a whole, we're not enjoying.
Well,
What are
and
we
here's a
teaching our kids?
secret, like from someone who doesn't have any chronic illnesses at the moment other than asthma. And I say that honestly, I don't have anything at the moment, thank you God,
Mhm.
but I still have to battle the program to do,
Yeah.
and not just be. Like that,
Yeah.
the being, the loving, the how I show up and the why I show up matters far beyond what I actually
Yes.
do
Yeah.
when I show up.
Yeah.
But we've been programmed opposite.
100%.
And it's
100%.
debilitating to those who aren't ill. And it's 10 times more debilitating to those who are ill.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it doesn't allow for this, like, it's funny because now I feel like there's often times where I'm not feeling great, or I get like a funny stomach, I don't want to say like my stomach gets really, really sick, but like I'm not feeling so great. And it's just before I up level in my life too. So
Mhm.
now I'm even like, oh, this means that something good might be coming. Now I need to get to a point where that doesn't even come
Need
up.
to happen.
But just to be aware that these things happen. And I think it's also, there's like part of something out there that's trying to stop you from achieving your dreams. Like um there's like a program that's out there that's like, when you're getting sick, like to me it feels like I'm preventing. We've talked a lot, and in my case there was like, I came into this world and I came into things knowing from the time I was a baby, feeling like if I need it, I have to sacrifice something from myself in order to get what I want. I had that message. Some people have that. I think some people feel like it might be too good to be true, so they're self-sabotaging. They may feel like they're not worthy enough, so they're like subconsciously making making that happen. But like, you need to get to the root of why, so that you can, the point is like, whatever it is, there's different reasons. And
And knowledge
actually,
is power when you know
knowledge is
why.
power. I actually had, I was going to actually message this, and I wasn't even going to bring it up in this, but it's interesting. So I've done like 4 to 5 days a week. Some weeks I'm like doing it 7 days a week. Some days I'm not doing it. I've done like affirmations. These are what my affirmations look like. My
Great.
charmed life affirmations. Okay. Just like very plain. And I had like an EMDR session last week that really like up leveled. It took me to like the first time that I felt like I wasn't worthy and I wasn't good enough. And that was, sadly, my first memory of that was in kindergarten. Like, I have been walking around my life feeling that. And and you know what? I'm not surprised that I got a chronic illness after I was finished with going to school. When I made the decision, I'm done. I'm not furthering my education anymore. And I just was out in the workplace because I had been dealing with learning disabilities. And then all of a sudden my body's like, oh, well, like, we don't have that stress anymore. Like, let's give you some Crohn's and colitis to like make you feel not worthy, right? And that being said, as I say, like, there's so many reasons why these things happen, and why, and the programming that becomes it. And it's so like, I mean, people are suffering so much, and
Absolutely.
it makes me so sad. Like, I feel it, I see it, I'm out there and I see people, and like, I mean, people have diabetes and have like insulin pumps, and they're walking around. And yes, like, I mean, it is so normal to have a normal life when you have diabetes. But like, let's talk about this. Like, let's unpack this. Like, why can't we even you know, that like for so long I hid that I was like sick. I thought it was a liability. I didn't want my clients to know. I didn't want my like big clients to know. It was the dirty little secret. Like,
So weird. Because, you know, I mean, Angela and I have talked about this in regards to cancer, because especially when you're treating naturally, like it was it's a weird thing. I did both leukemia and my stomach cancer naturally, right? With layering all kinds of different protocols. But because my hair wasn't falling out, yes, I was skinny, but because my hair wasn't falling out, because I could cover whatever with makeup and just layer extra clothes, people didn't know I was sick. I mean, I literally had one of my friends, ex-friends, say to me, I don't even believe you have cancer because you don't look like a cancer patient. And I'm like, because you're used to seeing radiation and chemo.
Yeah.
But then there's this weird like guilt over that. Like, so now I have to look sick. To please you.
Well, and that being said, like, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a flare and get like unhealthy, skinny, like and people are like, oh my God, you look so good. Because we live in a society where like unhealthy, skinny is like, you look so good. And I'm like, really? Like I'm falling apart. Like I have bruises everywhere because I have no iron in my body.
Right.
My hair's falling out in clumps. I've had to basically like cut my hair totally off because it's all patchy and gross. And you think I look more beautiful than when I was like 10 pounds heavier at a healthy weight? Like ridiculous. But also, I think what you're also bringing up is when people treat naturally, because this is a whole other level too, which we weren't even planning on talking about. But there's this whole thing because like I treat naturally. I can't tell you how many doctors like hate that I'm not on like a biological, that I'm not on an immune suppressant. I have had extra colonoscopies to like prove to my doctor that I am feeling better because he doesn't believe it. And so then often you're not reaching out for the medical support because in this idea of like Western medicine, there's no room for both. Right. And so then you're lying to medical professionals about how you're feeling because you know that it takes longer to feel better by doing this naturally.
Yeah.
And so then there's this whole other level of like, and then also not really telling the truth to other people because people are like, well, why are you still sick? Like you should be on this medication. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. People think they're all the experts. They give you like all this research and you're like, you don't even know like the tip of this iceberg, right? Like this is insane. And so then so when you're treating naturally, you don't even want to complain because if you complain, then people are like, well, this isn't working. You should be like going and getting, Western conventional medicine.
But I mean, look, and you're right. This wasn't something we planned to discuss, but I think this is a good point. And I'm not downing allopathic medicine, Western medicine. There is a time and a place for it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not like I haven't gone to the doctor. I had a hysterectomy last year to remove a mass. But the point is this. We are one of like the United States and Canada, the Western states and countries, very much in this mindset that you can't blend them. But our programming across the globe is such that I have a magic pill to cure the symptoms. So as long as you don't have the symptoms, it doesn't matter if your illness isn't cured, you have the magic pill and the symptoms go away and you have an immediate answer.
And who wants to be on a medication the rest of your life? Like, that's insane. And who wants to, immune suppressants lower your immune system. Like, why? And cause cancer and cause these, horrible, awful things. And like, I have this discussion every time. My doctor's like, well, you should be on this because like you're going to have scar tissue, and because you have Crohn's and colitis where they are, like you're going to have to get it removed. And then you'll have an ostomy in a bag. And I'm like, so if it gets to that point, I would rather have an ostomy. I would rather have a bag. Like, what is wrong with having a bag? Like, what is wrong if I'm that sick? I would rather have that than be in chemotherapy because I have cancer as a side effect from this medication, or I get some other horrible illness because my immune system's been suppressed.
Right.
Like, so why is this, like cosmetic thing of having a bag such a horrible thing to have? So I go in for surgery and get my colon removed. I would rather that than have my life taken over, like
It's an interesting, I mean, honestly, illness and chronic illness especially is an interesting, weird topic that has to shift. Like, we have to have communications like this because people are out there suffering, whether it's with anxiety or depression, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, Crohn's, colitis. It doesn't even matter what you're suffering with. Like, there has to be a level of addressing the person holistically. Get them to heal. Because if you only heal the physical symptoms and you don't address the spiritual level, the mental level, the emotional level, you're left with somebody who's on pills, synthetic, and they're still hating on their bodies, and they're still hating their lives, and they're still hating themselves, and they're still in pain.
And they're a shell of themselves.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
It doesn't have to be that thing where you're like, well, I'm not worth anything because I can't produce what everybody else can produce, like you've done for so many years. I'm so proud of you, Leah. Like, I am really want to witness, like, to you how proud I am of you, because like you were saying, you came into Charm Life and you were one way, and your conversation, your story was one way, but there was a commitment, a declaration on you that said, I'm not living like this anymore.
Yeah.
This isn't going to run me anymore. Yeah. I'm gonna choose.
Everything had shut down in my life. Like, I mean, I had this chronic illness, but and then I had these lung tumors, and then I had this car accident, and it was like, I cannot function. Everything fell apart. Like, I was at everything, financially, emotionally, physically. Like, I was just like, I remember, so I started Charm Life when we went to Florida. I remember like going, like I had a driving anxiety, and I still do at that point. And we decided we were going to drive to Florida. I don't know how I got into a car every day. I don't know how I had blood coming out of me. Like, I was bleeding nonstop. It was like insane. I don't know how I did it, but I was like, I need to get to Florida. We're going to start Charmed Life. And I just knew, like, but I was like, at that, I knew I felt like I was being punished for something that I didn't do. Nothing. I'd worked so hard in my life on so many different areas. And as you know, like, I was just like, this is like, I told you, like, I don't have any other options. Like, there was nothing else I tried everything else, I was a mess. Like,
But
I was
anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
And you're still climbing, which I love.
Yeah.
I love, which comes to, we've got to wrap it up here in a few minutes, but the thing that's most inspiring too is that you and your husband, through all of this, the car accident, the illness, the financial struggle, rebuilding your lives, re-engineering, literally re-engineering your entire lives, and dreaming bigger and working through all of this stuff. Then we have a pandemic, and now the kids are like, so much has changed this last year. Who could have known? But then you guys also have this online platform for your business that you launched, right? Which was another big task
Yeah.
So, but you've done it. So can you talk about that? Like, what do you guys offer now online? Because that was all going on in the background with all these other
Yeah.
things you're juggling.
Yeah. So we've like, I mean, for a while we've been trying to shift to online. It feels like, oh, I'm echoing. Okay, there, that's better. Um, so it feels so but recently, because of COVID, we've been able to really like up level our online programs. And so this is something that we had started just through emails like 8 years ago, seeing really good success. And we have this amazing lifestyle program. Some people use it for weight loss, some people use it to boost their immune system, some people use it to hit their exercise goals. And we have this like phenomenal program that I trust. And it's funny because it's the thing that I use when I feel like my life is out of control. And it's like when I get that way, I'm like, okay, let's get those meal plans out. Because you can't think, right? And that's the thing with chronic illness is there's often your body becomes everything, and then you can't even like get into your mind to plan or to, you're like, I need to do better, I need to, or on the other hand, with every, like, I mean, I was saying I tried every program out there, and you have naturopaths, you have books saying you need to eat this, you can't eat that. Well, it's like, well, what do I eat? When do I eat it? How much do I eat? Like there's, like I need to have this each day, but how do I incorporate it? So we have a program that, certainly we address like the body, mind, soul. We address everything. It's not just calories in, calories out. We take into account all the other lifestyle factors that prevent people from reaching their goals. And it's been really an amazing thing. My husband and I have been really loving that. And just taking the stuff that we see success with our clients and with ourselves and like helping people through this time. And yeah, like, I mean, as I say, like, as you were saying, like, and we can maybe leave it coming up, like we were talking about how like last year I was a mess. I remember last like December I was at my parents. It was awful. And I was at my parents on the weekend. I haven't been there in a while. And I was thinking, oh my God, like I'm healing. Like I thought it was like bad last December. And I remember like you talking about your hysterectomy and talking about like all of that stuff. And like, and thinking like things are bad. And then they got even worse in January, February. And I'm like, I couldn't have imagined them getting worse than they were now. And then being so much better and being like, even though they're so much better, I've done so much healing. I'm like, I can't wait till next December to see where I'm going to be. Because we have and like the thing is with this program is we are just so excited because we want to help other people. Like,
and it's world. I mean, the great thing about the online platform, is it's worldwide. There's no border restriction. Like the information and the course can be shared out there worldwide. So you guys that are listening, if you want to check out Leah and her husband Rob's programs, it's eLifestyle.ca. It's eLifestyle, like life, LIFE, style, STYLE.ca, because they're in Canada, but you can access it from across the globe. Check out what they have to offer, because like if you've struggled the way Leah has, or you just have fitness goals, or you just want to eat better and you don't want to have to do all that tons of research that gets you way confused, like they've already done it for you. Go check it out, because it's amazing. And these two have a pretty amazing background and story to boot.
And we've taken the whole idea of like sufficiency and abundance into this. So as opposed to like taking things out of people's diet, we put what people need into it and work in a sufficiency mode and work in a abundance mode, which most diets don't. They're like, you have to take everything out. And so, but what happens is that all of a sudden those things that aren't so great, you just don't get, because your body's getting what it needs, right? Like when you're craving food, when you're reaching for those other food, it's because you don't have what you need. So we work on putting those things into your diet, not taking things out, and then all of a sudden naturally it all comes together, which is really fun and exciting, and people don't believe it. And it's such a fun process that we like love. And I love that
So you guys work with people though that have like this program can work with people with Crohn's and colitis,
yeah,
fibro.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Chronic illness, like, I mean, I do a lot of, because of my fertility stuff, I do a lot of that. I'm now getting a lot of people that have, it's funny, like, I would think, oh, this is just happening, but I now, before Charmed Life and all this stuff, but I know you just attract, right? So because I went through all of this mental health stuff, we're getting a lot of people that are just dealing with mental health and need a routine. Some people just need a routine.
After the pandemic started,
Yeah.
a lot of people had mental health issues that they never slowed down long enough to realize they had, but they had, and they became more amplified. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. So the website to reach is the letter E like elephant, lifestyle.ca. Yeah. That's it. It's not .com, it's .ca for Canada. But you can reach it worldwide. We are out of time. I just want to thank Leah, and I'm so glad, when I get to introduce to like my Charm Life Masters, I get so excited because I get to go on this journey with them. People that come into Charm Life, or they're not all like at the bottom, but for the most part, whatever issue they walk in with, they are at the bottom of that issue, whatever that may be. And there's never any judgment. And it's so interesting to me when I get to bring someone who's been through the process and has completely shifted their lives, their health, their money story, their relationship stuff, and bring them on and actually have people see what their expertise. I love sharing this. I love sharing, and I love you and Rob. You guys have added so much to that class, because that group is such an amazing group of people. I wish you the most success, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming and speaking to, my listeners. And I don't even know what to say, Leah.
Thank you. Well, I thank you. Like, I mean, I know that for so long I was in, I guess, darkness. Like, it was so, and people need to hear stories like this. And I appreciate this because, like, I appreciate you. I didn't think that I came to you I didn't think that so many changes would be made in my life. And I certainly didn't think I would be able to address my like physical health stuff. I was just like, we just need to get like manifesting, manifesting in a positive
You guys
way.
came in on money.
Well, it was finance. Like, I mean, and that's the thing too, is like, you don't realize until you don't have it. Like finances, people say like money isn't everything. It is. Like, I mean, you can't do much without money. I'm sorry, unless you're living like.
But money's just energy.
Yeah,
and when you start to understand that, like love, money, health, all of those things are all tied together, and you come in working on one thing, you realize, oh crap, now I need to just balance it all across the board. So your life can completely change. But it takes work. And
exactly.
The thing that I like, the honor part.
Yeah.
You guys did the work. You're continuing to do the work.
Yeah. And like things like my husband, like we were solid, my husband and I, like it's like we've always been solid. Like there's been times, of course, that I'm annoyed by him, but like that's life. But like our relationship has become more enriched and deeper, and it's not even something that like we needed to work on, but like the quality of our relationship is that much better and stronger. And like we're just so grateful because there's so many that we came in for like really financial and like to get help. I wanted to help be more in control, feel more in control of my life, and I felt like things would come into place, but everything's coming into place. And as I say, like I will tell you my download after, when I was like, next year, where am I going to be? And this thing popped in my head. I will say that to you after this. But like, I'm so excited. Like I said to Rob, especially after last week's session, I'm like, we can never leave Charmed Life. Like, no matter how much you elevate, because things come up and ego and like different things happen. but we are so grateful. It's changed all of our lives, and it's just amazing.
You guys keep me on it. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for Charm Life, and maybe, I mean, because I've been on this journey for a long time of just grow. But the one thing in teaching Charm Life, and it is like I'm there weekly, I have to show up weekly for everybody, which means I can't ever get off the train of growth and evolving at higher level and up level. And I can't, because like the more I climb, the more I can help everyone else climb. So for me, like as much as I teach the class and I coach you guys and I'm there for you guys, y'all like give me purpose to keep growing and learning and connecting and not getting lazy in my own journey. You know?
I can believe that, like I see how you come each week to class and like you share so much and there's no ego. So like if you're having I don't know if I can swear, but a crappy week, let's say, okay, so a shitty week, you're saying I am having a shitty week. And that's so great to see that, like, you don't have to be on the path 100% of the time. It's like
well, you're on the path, but you don't have to be, it doesn't always have to be roses and unicorns and glitter. Yeah. And it can still be okay.
Well, and that's life, right? Because we live in a 3D world. It was like I was saying to my girlfriend today, and I know we're so over time. I am so sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay. So I was saying to my girlfriend today, we were talking about like how I'm like, you know what? I think life is going to throw us at it. But as we're growing, it's going to take us less time to like get over and through it, right? So like something happens, like something had triggered me that we had talked about a couple weeks ago with my family, and like within an hour or two I was through that energy. Like in a past world, like old Leah would still be like obsessed with this idea of it, right? And I was able to move through this. Like I had like basically an anxiety attack because of it, and it was horrible. And then I just took the things that I did and move through it. Like life is not going to be perfect, and that's not the point of life, but it's about like navigating it and getting through those emotions so that you can and I think maybe that's the thing with the illness, is like you're giving your emotion to those positive things. Like if I'm feeling really bad in bed, as I said, like I write, instead of 10 pieces of gratitude, I find 100. And it could be like my sheets are very comfortable and clean.
I love clean sheets.
My pillows are like soft. I'm so lucky that I have like a big bed with my own bathroom, so that like if I'm in there for 4 hours, my family can use another bathroom, like a little thing. Toilet paper after the pandemic. I have toilet paper.
Yes.
And it's about, and one thing I've learned, and I think is maybe a really good place to end, is like sometimes we don't want to get better because we feel like we're not being authentic to our journey, that we're taking away a piece of our history, a piece of ourselves. If someone did something to us, it makes it okay for them to do something. And one of the things that I've been learning, I was talking about this actually in my therapy in my EMDR this week, is that it's not about healing, isn't about that. It's not about taking those bad things away. It's not about taking what someone did that's bad away. It's about really being able to look at it in this Leah and not feel those horrible emotions. Right? And you can like report it almost like report it authentically and to give people that same idea, but like not have those same emotions as you did, like those negative emotions, be able to like report it and have it not bring you down.
All the attachment to the emotions. Yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
for
for coming on and for being a part of my world. and trusting me with your journey and your path. And I hope we have someone in the live chat right now who has IBS, lupus, fibro, transverse myelitis, is going to come check out eLifestyle.ca. So the rest of you that are listening, thank you for joining us. Make sure you like and follow the podcast, but go check out what they have to offer if you are, you have some health goals, or if you are yourself struggling with some of the stuff that we talked about today, because I really think that this is an amazing resource for you guys. And once you meet Rob and Leah, you're going to be hooked, because they're amazing people. They're amazing people. So thank you, Leah. We're going to end it for today, and we will be back next week. And Angela will be joining me on the podcast next week. So you guys have a good one. I'll see you later.
Abandon fear and trust yourself. Open up to all life's wealth. Tap into a sixth sense with intuitive intelligence.